This podcast contains paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast, where I discuss how you can grow your business by the bootstraps. This applies to all entrepreneurs, from the person just starting up to the one that is already well established. My goal is to help you grow. I am your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into the sponsor for the day because I don't like forgetting about it. So today's sponsor is one that we've had for a while, but I kind of backed away for a while because of coronavirus. But let's jump back to them. And that is Tilly. Tilly Endurables. They make some wonderful outdoor gear, primarily hats, but they have some great clothing as well. And right now, during these corona times, you should be outside getting some fresh air. It's a great way to get out so you don't go completely crazy sitting in your house. A lot of places, at least, especially here in Norway, people are allowed to go outside, go for hikes, go out. And what better way to go out and hike than with your Tilly hat? Protect you from the sun, waterproof, lifetime guarantee, looks stylish, very comfortable, and just a great hat overall. Go check them out, tillyendurables.com, link in the description below. You help them out, you help us out. It's a great thing. Go check them out. Now, today I'm going to be talking about kind of a cliche concept, which is if it's not broke, don't fix it. Now, I know I often sound like I give conflicting advice. However, I think there's times where one piece of advice works and other times it doesn't. And I tend to be a middle of the road guy. I don't like extremes. And I try to find that, and I find that oftentimes one piece of advice works great up into a point, but then once you go past that point into the extreme, it doesn't work. And one of these things is innovation. I have seen company after company, usually large corporations, sometimes smaller companies, innovate apparently just for the sake of innovating, with no real goal in mind, no real end game that is productive. The end of the goal makes things worse, not better, and they just change it because they feel like change it just because, well, they need to change something because obviously you have to innovate. So, yeah, you need to innovate, but you have to be strategic about it. Yes, innovate or die, but innovate just for the sake of innovation with no strategy, with no plan, with no goal. It can backfire. You can shoot yourself in the foot just to innovate because of innovation. Now, a great example was I was working for, and I'll be nice, they're still in business, decent corporation, but it was a restaurant chain, and they dealt with dough, pizza dough. Now, this pizza chain, pretty famous. When I was working there, they had a pretty simple, straightforward way to show when you brought out the dough for it to rise. You had a little clock wheel, hour hand, minute hand, and you would just set the time for when it was ready. Or it's been a few years when you pulled it out, one of the two. Can't remember exactly. And so you would just pull out the dough, you put the clock on, set the time, and done. No problem. Really simple, really easy. You could easily come across dough, see if it was ready, see if it was not. You could come in. The day shift could have put it out. You could be in the swing shift. You could come and take one quick glance, know exactly what you had ready, what you need to make. Perfect. Simple. Just a little clock face, little paper, little plastic clock that you could just put on the box of dough and you'd know. Then, after some months of this, and I'd only been there a few months when they changed it, but this had been the way they did it for years. They came up with a new system. Why? Because They could, I guess. I don't know. The new system was like a red, green, and blue, if I remember correctly, circle. Same thing, a little plastic-coated paper circle. But instead of a clock, the red one meant this would just come out. The blue one meant this was risen. I don't remember. It was so much more complex. They had to have a separate sheet with a kind of a map key so you could look, so you can make sure that this color went to this one and this color went to that one. And why? Don't know. Don't know. It overcomplicated. It made it harder to do, was harder to understand, harder to follow, harder to figure out, more confusing, and in the long run, did not make things more efficient, did not make things more simple to understand, did not make it easier to train new employees. It made things much, much worse for no apparent goal, no end game. Maybe there was another one of these pizzas companies, places in the chain that did this way instead of the clock system, and they just flipped a coin between the clock system and the color-coded card system. I don't know. Don't know. Everyone complained about it. I mean, we got used to it. We figured it out eventually, but we're just kind of all we're shaking our heads like, why are you changing this up? It's working. This is a minor operational detail that has nothing to do with the overall success of the store or not, restaurant. It's petty, and it just makes things worse and harder and has no end of being better. It wasn't better. It was much harder to do. Couldn't figure out why. The system wasn't broke. It was working just fine, and they decided they had to go ahead and try to fix it and break it worse. Break it. Don't know. Seen this type of thing happen over and over and over again. You do want to innovate and fix things, like your sales are flat. Yeah, maybe you should change up your offerings. Come up with a new marketing plan. If your pizzas are taking 20 minutes each to get out the door, just to leave the door, and you need to get it down 15 minutes, maybe you can look around and see if you can create a new system that is more efficient to cut time down. But it has to be something with a goal, has to be something purposeful, and has to have something with a good end result where it's targeted. Kind of like Zig Ziglar says, and he's talking about goals on this point, but I think it applies here. If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every single time. Wonderful quote. I love that quote. It's great about goals. And if you innovate without a goal, you'll get nothing in return every time. It's that simple. If you just change things up just because you want to change things up, yeah, it doesn't work. Matter of fact, when I worked with Jason St. Clair, who runs the Atheoz business podcast on the same network here, we worked in the arcade, and just about every time there was a new general manager that came through, they would come down and change something, and then we'd adjust to it, and then they'd leave or get fired or quit or whatever. The new one would come back in, and they'd change it back to what it was beforehand. Just because they felt like they had to do something down there to show that they were the manager and watching the whole operations. I don't know. But this type of change just for the sake of change, innovation just for the sake of innovation, without a point, without a goal, without a target, and without a good reason to do it, is pointless. Don't do it. That's easy to do. And even as a small business owner, sometimes you might be stuck. I think one of the reasons is you might be stuck in momentum. You're not making any progress. It's like your feet have landed in wet cement and you can't get moving. And so you start trying to change things, but instead of trying to target the actual problem, you start changing things that are working because that's the one thing you can have an idea to change, but it's not maybe the thing that you need to change. You're just struggling to do it. I remember when I worked for Radio Shack and they were having problems, they were losing money. Instead of trying to fix marketing, fix training, bring in more customers, make the customer experience better, they did what is usually, from what I've seen, the beginning of the end death knell for any company, and that is cut hours, cut employees, lower hours, reduce the amount of employees working, cut payroll, because that's the easiest thing to deal with when it comes to cutting cost. I think I've mentioned this before. Cutting payroll is the easiest thing to do. It's often usually the worst thing you can do. Now, there are times when you might need to cut payroll because you've gone way over budget and you've brought in a whole lot more people than you should have to begin with. That's poor planning. But again, micromanaging payroll is not the real problem. And it becomes one of these, if it's not broken, don't fix it things. And we had that. They were, as a manager, as an assistant manager, they gave us a program called WorkBrain, which was a quote-unquote smart scheduling system. It scheduled all the employees for us for optimum times, peak times, so we could have the least amount of people working on the slow times to try to save money. It sounded great in theory, but it worked so horribly, my manager just simply called it work fart. Because the kids we had that were 19 years old in college that couldn't work certain shifts, we put them in the system and we put these shifts they cannot work, and it immediately scheduled them for all the shifts they couldn't work. And so we had to go in and manually spend an extra hour a week fixing the system every single time. They made a change, just to make a change. Our scheduling wasn't broken. We scheduled just fine. We knew when the peak times were. But they were changing it just to change it because that's all they could do. They were kind of, oh no, we got to cut costs somewhere. Let's cut payroll. Let's cut this thing. Let's redesign this thing. Let's just change the floor plan. No, we don't like that floor plan. Let's change the floor plan again. Let's change the floor plan again. And it oftentimes with the bigger corporations, these changing just for the sake of change, innovating just to innovate, fixing things that aren't broken, is quite often a sign of bigger problems, and they're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, doing nothing but going in circles. So be aware, if you find yourself trying to fix things that are not broken, you might be in bigger trouble. You need to stop, take a step back, go, why does the strategy, which drive me to do this? Am I trying to make things more efficient because I'm losing money? Well, where else am I losing money? And another question is, why are you losing money? Maybe I'll do a whole podcast on asking that question, why? That's the most important question you often can ask. Why am I not making money? Why am I losing money? Why is my market share slipping? And find the real reason. If you start asking why, then you will find yourself eliminating trying to fix things that are not broken. Why do I need to change the dough rising thing? Oh, it's working. I don't need to. Why am I doing it? Well, maybe I thought it'd be more efficient. Well, why do I need to be more efficient? Because we're throwing away too much food. Why are we throwing away too much food? Oh, wait, we're over ordering for this time period, or this big special that we ran was not a hit. And try to find the real reason for the problem. Because you might be fixing something that's not broken, trying to fix something that is broken, but you trying to fix the wrong thing because you don't ask the question, why? Anyway, whenever you're making a change, making an innovation, my last thought on this is just, like I said, ask why, make a goal, make a plan, and then make the change. That will keep you from fixing things that are not broken to begin with. You have a good day. See you next week. Talk later. Bye-bye. Oh, one more thing before I forget. I am still working on the podcast and blog about how to make a physical brick and mortar store a success in today's internet, drone delivery, and corona times. I would love to hear from you guys. I set up a poll on the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group. Come check us out. I would love your input. I would love to get some more interaction with you guys. Hear what you have to say. I'm sure you guys have some brilliant ideas and can really help out here. Go check us out. O'Connor Facebook group, O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group. Links in the description. You have a great day. See you next week. Bye-bye. Okay, just as a reminder, we do offer a free 1/2 hour, no obligation consultation. All you need to do is go to our website and contact us through there, or you can contact me directly at my O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group or our Atheoz.com Facebook page as well. And if you would like to support this channel, the best thing you can do, of course, is to like and share and subscribe. That helps the most. Or you can check out one of our affiliate links. And of course, I do have a PayPal and a Patreon account, and the links will be in the description below. Thank you very much. You all have a good day. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast and Atheoz Business Solutions Podcast. For other podcasts, past episodes, and related blogs, please check out our website at www.atheoz.com. That is www.atheoz.com or atheoz.com. Until next time, I've been your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor.